without further ado, we'll begin this evening's reading. Okay, and our first reader is Mercy Tullis-Bukhari. Mercy, she would be like, yo, right now, but she's muted for now. We're going to definitely unmute Mercy. Get Fresh Books is so excited and happy to be publishing Mercy's book, which will be coming out either later this spring or in the summer, okay? But it's coming to you. So please follow us on social media at GFB Publishing, either Instagram or Twitter, and you'll be able to see the news of when you can pre-order it, when the book launch party is, and all that good stuff. Okay, yes, absolutely. We're here for that. Okay, let's handle some business. Mercy Tullis-Bukhari is a poet, essayist, and fiction writer who finds inspiration from being a Bronx-bred Afro-Latina, boogie down, Honduran and Garifuna of Jamaican descent. She is a Callaloo Fellow and has performed at various venues throughout New York, including the Bronx Library Center, the Bowery Poetry Club, the Nuyorican Poets Café, and for the Caribbean Cultural Theater. Everybody, welcome, Mercy. I gotta press some buttons, so hold on. Let me press some buttons. Ask to unmute.
All right. Hi.
And
everyone.
spotlight for everyone. There you go.
Hey. So, Roberto, thank you very much for having me and for welcoming me to the Get Fresh family. I'm so honored, and I'm excited about the book. I'm excited to be working with Lynn. I'm excited to be working with you and the family. You all are so, I attended the reading on, I think on Tuesday, and I just felt so, and I was running around doing mommy stuff with my kids. So that's why my camera was off and my mic was off. But I felt so privileged and so inspired and honored to be part of the Get Fresh family. And you know, this is such a beautiful thing. So let me just start reading. The tentative title of the book is called The Little Deaths I Barely Have. And I'm going to start with Black Children Swaddled. And I'm going to start with Black Children Swaddled. And this is dedicated to my children. During the pandemic, we were talking a lot about all the African Americans being killed at the hands of police officers, and they actually did see the video of George Floyd being killed. And it was a video that was filmed that I found on the New York Times website, and it took security cameras as well as mobile recordings, people who had their phones out, and it was able to do a second by second interpretation of George Floyd's death. So it was very impactful, and we had several conversations after that video. So I'm going to start with that one. Black Children Swaddled. My children asked, why was a man under the knee of another man? They asked, why did she die by the bullet while asleep on her bed? When they ask these questions, I hear, why do they revel in the disempowerment of our bodies? I hear, why are our bodies still under the treatment of human chattel and plantations protected by their red, white, and blue flag? I myself still question, why are our lives at the mercy of those who still feel threatened by us with no effort to attract the attention of death? I follow the Bible of parenting, teaching my children to be law-abiding citizens, to follow societal rules of saying thank you and good morning, to not say yeah, but yes, to reference the person they are talking to by their title, to hold the door for whomever is walking behind them, to treat each person the way they would want to be treated. I don't know what to say. When a knee becomes a place of death and not of prayer, when a bullet pierces through the peaceful state of a woman in her home and not the evil uncertainty of an intruder. I would rather keep feeding my children white picket fences, the promise of a dog, The expectation of a 3-bedroom house with an attic, a basement, a backyard, and the hopes of bicycling in friendly streets among trusting neighbors than to answer their questions. I'd rather silence them with milk and cookies and ice cream. And I would rather calm my shakes striped by images of victims with Hennessy meat. My body, sliced open to bring my children forward, were checked for fingers, toes, and genitals. They were cleaned, then swaddled to recreate the comfort and security of my womb. How can I tell my children that from the moment they were swaddled, they were being fooled into the fallacy of this world being built for their inclusion? That from the moment they were born, in the innocence of their cries, they have been labeled into a life already decided for them before they could have even decided for themselves. Their swaddle is not my womb, not their protection, not my amniotic fluid. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to tell them of a knee and a bullet and a chokehold and rope and fire. A man kneels to kill. A woman is killed in her sleep. When my children ask questions, I hear, why do they revel in the disempowerment of our bodies? I hear, why do they hate us so much? What did we do to them for them to hate us? I see, whether we resist or not, that our lives are still vulnerable under the eyes of those who were sworn to protect us. I cannot be tired, but I still don't know what to tell my children. All right, that's my first poem. My second poem is called No Love During Corona, because it was lonely up in these streets for a minute, especially as my partner's on the other side of the laptop, and he said literally for a minute. And so I was healing from a divorce. I had just gotten, my divorce had just been finalized right before the pandemic. So of course there was some sadness and stuff attached to that, especially being trapped in the home with minimal distractions. No love during Corona. My children's father suggested that our children stay with him, that I could visit, he said. The children are happy when I am there, he added. Over the course of Corona, I have become the second parent, the parent who lives across the bridge in the hazmat city the Daily News proclaimed to be hell. So much I could do, I hear my neighbor mommy say, with the children on the other side of the bridge. So much free time and so much writing you could do, they say. All the dates you can go on, they say. But we are quarantined, I think, with social distancing keeping me from partaking in all that being a single woman without kids could invite. I visited my children across the bridge with the prominent presence of his new girlfriend throughout the apartment, the matching paint and paintings on his wall, a collection of her children's art pieces in his living room, pink razor blades in the bathroom, skin and hair products crowding the dresser I helped pay for that ultimately ruined my credit score, and text messages of photos I glanced at as I was putting on my sneakers to leave his apartment. I wanted to leave. The children kept pulling me to stay. 4 photos were waiting to be retrieved on his phone sent by his girlfriend. I wondered if they were nudes or memes or nudes. I chose to be quarantined in the hazmat city without my children, to reason through the resentment I still feel for the failed marriage, for his ability to easily move on to the nudes of another woman or give her the relationship I so desperately begged for over the last decade. I don't love him, I know. I'm too busy cleaning up the emotional mess and clutter he left behind for me to feel any love. Yet, I am still attached to the expectations. This poem was published by Yes Poetry magazine. So, yeah. I'm really proud of the poem. If you go on their Instagram page, you'll be able to find the poem. The next one is called Apology to My Ancestors. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for not living the life you wanted for me. I confess I have spent too much of my life insulting you. I'm sorry for allowing my body to be smothered by beliefs of hypersexuality, for not accepting my woman role as the alpha of this universe. I'm sorry for unfairly criticizing any of my brown kin as they live their lives in restraints of zoned mental plantation fields of our modern injustices because of systems blocking them from seeing their own beauty. I'm sorry for the mental idleness against the imbalance of treatment, for thinking that my only way to uplift others is to suppress my greatness. I am sorry for not living on the path created for me that you fought for me to be on, for not using the freedom of my imagination to carry me forward, for not seeing my opportunities as significant as the grounds you were stolen from and the grounds you built. I'm sorry for not valuing my role as a mother, because for so many of you, that role was stolen. For allowing the disjointing of my family and for not fighting for the maintaining of our communities. I'm so sorry for all those times I silenced your voices, keeping me from being my true self, for allowing the outside to infect my dreams and hopes with their words of venom, for even the slight question of my skin, my nose, my hair, my lips, for the times I did not fight against white liberal perspectives and passivity. You knew who you were, who you wanted me to be, more than I am imagining for myself. You fought for the unity of your family, the wealth of your freedom, the endurance of your culture. Your spirits haunt the Atlantic, your souls, the Americas. So I'm sorry, my spirits, my ancestors, for creating the chains you never allowed to entrap you. All right. That's my family. That was amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh. This was called Roller Skating with Jesus on the Concourse. My oldest brother died by suicide when he was 33 years old. And it wasn't until maybe about 3 years ago that I decided to explore his death from a place of love and not from a place of abandonment and anger. So he died about 30 years ago, actually, 30 years ago this spring. Roller skating with Jesus on the concourse. I roller skate on the concourse past Art Deco buildings and bodegas. I use the strength of my legs to push me forward, the bend of my knees for momentum, the gaze towards the courthouse to keep me balanced. Yes, I fall. No, I didn't wear any protective gear. We old school. I just rolled with the faith in myself. My knee, its skin scraped off, blood dripping. The scrape must have covered my whole knee. My brother tells me, good, you're learning. He kneels down and looks at the scrape. He walks me to an open hydrant and takes a handkerchief out of his back pocket to clean my knee. Yes, we use water from an open hydrant. No, I'm not sure where his handkerchief was. And no, we did not use any Neosporin. He tells me to sit on the edge of the sidewalk next to his Sony boom box to increase the volume. His afro looked like a Jesus halo. Give me a ho, you got your funky bus fare, ho, ho, ho. The wheels grew from his feet, moonwalking, then spins first on both feet, then one leg, making undulations with unseen lines. He spins and spins and spins, bip, bop, bam, alakazam, like a record after a strong scratch release. Crossing his legs with his body tilted on one side, then switching direction with his body tilted the other side. Then he falls. Yes, my brother fell. Even the best of them have to fall, right? It was a pebble that made him fall. He smiles at himself looks at me with the same smile and tells me we all have to fall sometime, but we learn when we get back up. He held his head out for me to get up. I took his hand and we skated, my Jesus and me, on the concourse, past the Art Deco buildings towards the courthouse. All right. Thank you, baby. Oh, thank you. I love reading that poem. So how am I with time? Okay, so I'll read one more.
Yes.
Okay. And I enjoy reading this poem so much. I saw Celia perform at SOBs with my lover one night. Heard La Habanera sing praises to palm leaves, waving whispers to a lost homeland, to carnivals of life, of love negritos, bambonas being killed, of salacious black girls con no tumbao to make men. I listened to her songs when I saw Celia, knowing his familiarity but lacking his words, but still telling my lover after several songs, yeah, mi abuelita used to play that song. Y mi abuelita told me her cipota stories of hearing her neighbors say, Celia está en el pueblo performing, tenemos que ir. Waving her purple dress trimmed with glittering things in this West Village nightclub overflowing with energy, sucking in other cipotes from abuelitas, who had Celia LPs stacked next to the record player in their dining rooms, right under the devil Jesucristo, lifting and showing just a little light skin, suavecito con sabrosura. I held on to my lover, smiling to her voice, emanating high notes without any pain, louder than the band that needed her to stay with her tempo, and I reveled in her chip of Latina-ness, of giving position to Spanish-speaking Africans in this world of limbo forced ethnic boxes. I teared, porque Cuba was really freeing itself in this smoke-filled small venue with her on the stage, seeing her regal colored wig spreading and shining out like a sunflower blossoming towards the sun. My lover and I talked about azúcar, with mist streams of Cuban fantasies trapped in highballs of coke, lima, y ron, and African influence in cultures dismissing the non-castellano, and of women who can still rock a crowd after generations of abuelitas and cipotes. And he held on to me, porque Cuba was freeing itself from this Honduran Jamaican existence as I sang, hoy, no hay que llorar, que la vida es un carnaval, es más bello vivir cantando. And I called abuelita at home, aware of the hour difference, and I said, be la reina, abuelita, be la reina. Thank you so much. Thank you, Roberto. That's also my brother's name.
See, those ancestors don't be playing. I'm telling you.
They don't be playing, yo.
They don't be playing.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me press some buttons. Oh my God, this is the most stressful. Okay, that was awesome. Thank you so much. I love listening to Mercy read because she reads. You know what I'm saying? Like, it comes from here. And that is so beautiful, and that is such a wonderful gift. And don't worry, when we have this book party, your asses better come out. That's all I'm saying. All right, moving right along. We're gonna keep it moving right along. Coming up next is the awesome and amazing and just so chill, but there's like, you see Wendy so chill and shit, right? But there's like so much that goes on behind that calm that it's amazing. I can't wait for y'all to get familiar with her book, okay? Because Wendy's book is also forthcoming, all right? And we're gonna get to the business in a minute, okay? But what I want you to know about all of tonight's readers is that they have their first books, you know, well, no, not Mercy. Mercy's like on her third book. She's like a ball, the third or fourth book, right? But they all have books coming out, okay? So please, you know, support these poets and their books, because it's so important and so necessary, right? Talking to you out there in Facebook land, all right? Follow these poets on social media and support their books, okay? They got a lot to say, and you will not be disappointed, okay? Wendy Barnes is a resident of Jersey City. Her forthcoming book, Landscape with Blood Feud, was a finalist for the Crab Orchard Series in Poetry First Book Award, and was awarded the Juniper Prize for Poetry from the University of Massachusetts Press. Congratulations, no small feat, winning a book award these days. Her poetry has appeared in publications like Narrative, Story South, Painted Bride Quarterly, No Dear, Spoon River Poetry Review, and Slice Magazine. Her art and poetry reviews appear in Frog Magazine and on the Adroit Journal blog. She received a 2022 fellowship in prose from the New Jersey Council on the Arts. Also no small feat, because Jersey be bugging sometimes. So that's wonderful news. She is currently visiting artist in residence at the University of Central Oklahoma. And Wendy and I are colleagues at Union County Community College. And she's a riot. she's a committed and passionate teacher as well. So everybody, welcome Wendy. So let me remove this. I'll ask you to unmute and I will spotlight for everyone. There we go.
Thanks, Roberto. I appreciate that. And thanks, Mercy, so much for your beautiful reading. I'm thrilled to be here. Roberto, I can't thank you enough for inviting me, and I'm honored to be here with both Joel and Mercy. Mercy and I were both at the reading on Tuesday, and folks were saying during the reading that even if you don't publish with Get Fresh, it feels like you're part of the family. And that's because of the kind of community that Roberto has created. And you need to be really proud of yourself, Roberto. Thank you for what you're doing for the poetry community. It's very necessary work. So this book that Roberto mentioned, Landscape with Blood Feud, is available for pre-order from the University of Massachusetts Press, should you be interested. I'm going to read from it tonight. And this book is about my home state of Louisiana. And it's got poems set in time periods spanning colonial times to the present. It's told mostly from the perspective of the same speaker, who is, as I'm deeming it now, working out a fraught relationship with her home culture and her white working class roots. So we just had Mardi Gras, and you got to read a Mardi Gras poem. I'm going to be mentioning some particularly New Orleans cultural groups. If you don't know about the Mardi Gras Indians, you must know about the Mardi Gras Indians. Look them up. And then I'll also talk about the Bonesmen, the Skull and Bones gang. They dress all in black with skeletons painted on and go around the neighborhoods, waking everybody up on Mardi Gras Day. And they end up with this long train of people singing and dancing and drinking and smoking and all kinds of things. Cityscape with Carnival. Bonesmen at sunrise. Indian calls and lip sweat. Bless our pickled hearts. The river's alligator ripples. Night train, Sazerac, wild Irish. Irish Channel horses pull the ferry through the lock. Let's second line up Basin Street. Follow wild magnolia shout under backbeat drum. Riverboat, redfish, catfish, turtle soup. St. Claude for po' boy, b-boy, t-boy, dirty white rice. Fireworks, stipple, rampart. Let's Zydeco across the quarter to the cathedral. Damp t-shirts, ball gowns, top hats, G-strings. Pray us up, holy AC. Pass the J across the pew. Hallelujah, Fireheart, fresh baked. Riverscape, Mudmouth, Bonesman at dusk. Pale indigo fog, pass the plastic cups. Follow the horses. Flambeau riders light levee bonfires, heartshine. Have mercy, Mississippi. Old Mudheart churns its red bean blood through spillway, bayou, veins that bend the water's tonic note down to the Gulf. Okay, so this next poem is my Katrina poem. Witness the levee. 1. This is what I mean to save. Braid of moss, fish hull, temper of cloud. For years in the pre-storm inertia, purple dawn, rackwing, jackdaw and blackbird, static, a blue copse. Barbed wire anchors the asphalt city limits. Then cane fire, swamp gas, tar, burning of. The old smoke drifts backward and inward. Blood orange, persimmon, oil boom hangover tunes leak from morning bars. Beer and trumpets, their hollow cheer. What I can save is crumbled brick and cinder block, forehead ash, palms rustle, bless the white smocked children drifting across the still city square. You are so used to concrete sky, hush, afternoon, flash of future casts, your profiles enlightening, faces tip upward and open to rain. Mosquito, butterfly, luna moth whipped brittle landward on tightening wind, late sky, birds drop from. 2. This is what I have to give. Every season falls through you at once. Wind crush, wind and ghost migrations climb through a hole in the century, lurch over land and sea, the old injuries, voices in drywall, cedar post, sidewalk, all sunk, vacuum of breath, concrete hush of backache, lash whip, history. You swallow all the silt that ever rained down a river. You know what waits in the gulf, the way it grips the throat, chokes like heat, the way it can cripple like legend. Gothic fangs sink the ships, voodoo claws pop the rafts, what waits out in the gulf, an animal fear that swells, then gallops inland, rafter high, to erase what you once knew of your own secrets. Still, you wind yourselves in sheets of rain that reach from past to past, then loose you, drifting like late turns, untethered from a liquid core. Firecracker, gunshot, tap shoe. You are so used to eating storm. You turn your backs, but I can see what courses toward us. It is colorless, sure of hoof. So this next poem is about the Danziger Bridge shooting. And you might remember this. It was right after Hurricane Katrina. And there were some folks just trying to cross the bridge, unarmed. Cops gunned them down. They killed 2 people and wounded 6 in total. And then there was a huge cover-up on the part of the police. And eventually 5 cops went to jail, but surely more were involved than that. This is told from the perspective of a speaker who comes back to the bridge years later. Danziger Bridge Redux. The center of the movable bridge ascends with a groan. The yawn of some bored sea god now coasting past my windshield. The tanker's prow, curved like proud shoulders, grazes the fog. Plush white billows backfill its empty wake. There are 2 sides to a bridge, but the other side flashes and fades like an illusion. Are there 2 sides? Perspective spins within the wall of cloud. On one side, Bayou Sauvage, a wagon procession snakes riverward. Wheels and feet creep Buteau-like through mud, as if a sub-sea level pit of slack has held the settlers all this time, bound by the swamp's maternal reek, their progress suspended in cricket voices. On one side, the river still lies coiled, vengeance sitting hard in its gut. The gulf still churns its glass innocence. On another, the angel of history watches the wreckage rise. Boats pile atop the shore, cars pooling in the elbows of off-ramps, whole houses, ancient oaks uprooted. He tries to close his wings, the helicopter blades beat him back. On one side, an 18th century manifest torn and tossed into the sea, slips through the memory nets. I have to admit the failing of my one-time faith in structures, child of America, that I believed they were built to hold everybody the same. On one side, thirst, a pocket full of change, a shopping cart wobbles up the on-ramp, and on the other, a gentilly-bound cruiser coasts silent, lights whipping the currents of afternoon breeze. Then the gunshots, and then there are no more sides. A hole blows through the fog, and the center of the bridge of memory collapses, each of us idling on their opposite shore, staring into one another's headlights over the waters, their slow ache through the industrial canal. The bridge plate descends again, clanks into place, but answers nothing. I put the car in gear, head for Orleans East. In the rear view, I catch glimpses of the girders and abutments, but the reflection drifts like spirits and old windows. I am driving over air, barely skimming the metal grate, like the bridge was never there. So I'm going to read one more, everybody, and it's kind of long, like all of my poems are kind of long, I guess. This one may be just a little bit longer, so I'm going to get right to it. This one is told from the perspective of a speaker who, on some levels, is acknowledging Louisiana's history of atrocity, which is the country's history of atrocity. And she mentioned specifically dispossession of indigenous lands and the murder of indigenous people and the legacy of enslavement. But she kind of thinks, you know, all of this doesn't really have a lot to do with her directly. So she's trying not to deal with it. And this poem has an epigraph from the memoir by Sarah M. Broom about her New Orleans family, The Yellow House. We own what belongs to us, whether we claim it or not. The part-time penitent's guide to modern farming. I am not back then. I'm not a fallen monument, hole-bitten flag, bayou village afire, but I was born on a farmland acre, dogleg off the 2-lane to Highway 44, a farmland acre, its grass just like the grass across the road. I am not back then when we took horse teams and backhoes, flattened burial mounds, took rakes and dragged our disregard across the earth. We ravaged any pasture like locusts, stripping every thistle, eating every stiff or wiggling grub that we dug up and said, it's just some soulless thing I found in a woods, not even something's parent, and I'm hungry and can't help it. I can ignore what is not me. I am not the past, but I was born a mile from it, where blackberry thorns run along the fence, behind the honky-tonk, to the courthouse, memory of pistol smoke and hoofbeats, shouts of the disappeared. I may not be the past, but I was born right on top of it. I grew right in it, hoed out furrows, stuck my fingers in the soil, made cradles for the baby kernels that would sprout new corn. It came up white, silver queen, ambrosia, country gentleman. Doesn't everybody have to make a living? Doesn't everybody have to leave their own heart in aspic sometimes? Close up the jar, heart jelly. Ditto your old folks and all their unspeakable deeds. Please, I'm trying to ignore what is not me, so can we also jelly our every guilty gene and stick them in the fridge where they will keep? My old folks had a slop jar like that way back. They stowed it in a sea chest clear across the Atlantic, dumped it in some fields they found here that looked empty, said, these are just one or two lonely fields. They would be better planted with chunks of our hubris. And then they grew. Ugly brown buds clumped up high on the stalk, unfurled their spiky wings, spilled fluffy white guts over field upon field of pitiless rows, upland cultivars, white varieties, coker, delta pine. History bleeds us all for its tax, some for more, digging down into every wet wound, digging down among the taproots under old folks' marble tombs or unmarked graves, mass graves. There is no ceremony under cotton fields. I feel bad about it all, but I'm just trying to listen to my headphones. I'm just trying to weed these pole beans. I am just on my lunch break. I'm just trying to get by. And besides, who can afford to pay a debt that's figured in lifetimes? Some nights I hear voices beneath the oil refineries hum, and Sundays when it's quiet, I hear them hymns of all the faded parishioners. What they want is to come home, to have their faces recognized. Tonight, their chorus drowns out the cicadas. It swells and swells until it almost eats me. Okay, I say, well, then I am the past. But I'm still standing idle, empty-handed, neck deep in well-wishing. Thanks so much, everybody.
God damn, I love that. I love that line. I'm just trying to listen to my headphones, you know, like people are so fucking crazy. That's wonderful. Yo, awesome. Thank you so much, Wendy. Thank you so much. Look at you guys bringing that fire, not fucking around. Yeah, this is like the best part of what I do is like putting a reading together and shit and just listening to the work, right? Like listening to people's poetry. That's the fun part, you know? The other stuff is like, okay, you put it all together. But then when you get to like sit and just listen to folks read their amazing work, that's the thing, you know? So, you know, I appreciate both of you, Mercy, Wendy, you know, talking about community building and creating spaces. But it's because, you know, the work is necessary. It was funny. One of my interns has been coming to the readings, and she was like, it was amazing, like what a great mood everybody was in, like after the reading. Everybody really loved having their emotions pulled 100 different ways, and they felt so great. And she was like, I didn't realize that poetry can do that. You know, she's still an undergraduate. And it was great to hear that come from her. I said, yeah, poetry does do that, you know? Poetry can do that. It's just like listening to the radio, you know, you got to find your favorite song. And when you find that favorite song, it'll lead you to other great songs. So, yeah. All right, coming up next is DJ Renegade, Joel Diaz Porter. I'm so hyped, man, to have you here and listen to you read. I'm so excited about that. I know, you know, we haven't been physically in the same space in a minute, but, you know, I'm ready for this. I think this is going to be so much fun and so dope. So thank you for coming and fighting through your allergies to be here and read with us. Okay, trust me, I know what that's all about. I'm going to go get that shot very, very soon. So, you know, I get the allergy shot. So I'm good. Oh, yeah, but that shot too, Mercy. Don't worry. I'm going to go get that shot too. But I'm going to go get my allergy shot in a minute also. All right. Let's take care of some business. Yes. Give me 2 seconds. All right. Joel Diaz Porter, also known as DJ Renegade, was born and raised in Pittsburgh, PA. Shout out to Pittsburgh. And a former nightclub DJ. He was a 5-time individual finalist in the National Poetry Slam and the 98 and 99 Haiku Slam champion. And let me tell you, that is no small feat, because to write a good haiku in English is a challenge. His poems have been published in Time Magazine, The Washington Post, Best American Poetry, Mead, Poetry Magazine, Callaloo, Ploughshares, Antioch, Red Brick, Asheville Review, Beltway Quarterly, and the anthologies Gathering Ground, Love Poetry Out Loud, Breakbeat Poets, of course, shout out to Haymarket Books, Short Fuse, Roll Call, Def Poetry Jam. Oh man, I missed Def Poetry Jam. 360 Degrees of Black Poetry, Slam, the book, Revival, Spoken Word from Lollapallooza, Poetry Nation, Beyond the Frontier, African American Poetry, 250 Years of Struggle and Song, Catch a Fire, and the Black Rooster Social Inn. He received the Furious Flower Emerging Poet Award. Performances include the Today Show SlamNation on BET and the film Slam. Canem Fellow, he has a book, Ideas of Improvisation, forthcoming from Thread Makes Blanket Press later this spring. Please visit all of our poets on their social media sites to figure out how you can pick up their books. Okay, everybody, please give it up for Joel Diaz Porter. I will ask you to unmute. I will remove my spotlight and I will give the show to you, Joel.
Thank you, Roberta.
No
Well, first of all, thank you, Mercy, and thank you, Wendy, for sharing your wonderful words with us. And thank you, Roberto, for letting me hang out with the Get Fresh crew. Earlier, Mercy had the Double Dutch bus reference in her poem. And so anyway, yeah, I'm happy to be here. Because your name is Roberto and Mercy's brother's name is Roberto, I'm going to begin with this poem. Doesn't really need much of an introduction, except it begins with an epigraph from the title of the poem, who is Roberto Clemente. And the poem's titled El Magnifico. Who am I? I am a small eye. I'm a small point in the eye of the full moon. I need only one ray of the sun to warm my face. I need only one breeze from the trade winds to refresh my soul. What else can I ask if I know that my sons truly love me? Roberto Clemente. Even under a heavy quilt, there's a breeze from a distant transistor radio. My lips mimic a slice of honeydew as they remember it's New Year's Day, the last before heading back to school. Straining to hear the broadcast above my brother Jeff snoring in the bunk below, I roll over. The regular program has been interrupted by the sound of waves washing against the shore, which I pretend is my mother praying. It's January in Pittsburgh, which is to say the radiator shuddles against what howls outside our cracked window. After hopping down onto cold linoleum and tiptoeing to Mama's bedroom door, I cup one ear to the thin plies of wood. The radio reports that a plane flying Roberto Clemente food and clothing to earthquake victims in Nicaragua is missing off the coast of San Juan. No bodies have been located, only debris bobbing in the waves. The words hit my chest like the fat end of a bat. I collapse at the base of the door until my mother cracks it, her own eyes raw, and picks me up, rocking slowly. A glove left in the Little League grass is all I knew of loss. Even though a stadium shouting, "Arriba, Roberto," was all I knew of Espanol, didn't I fall asleep most nights pretending he was my father? In our world of chipped asphalt and falling bricks, his John Henry swagger was perhaps all I knew of myth. Hadn't I taken a black crayon and drawn the number 21 on the back of a t-shirt, then raced to play right field because his glove upturned for a basket catch was all I knew of grace? Brown as spiced rum, blacker than barges of coal, he somehow covered the gap between Puerto Rico's cane fields and our three rivers. Dark smoke choked the sun. Our city of rusty bridges and rolling hills began to lose the glow from its fabled mills. And on a rocky Puerto Rican shore, his family gathered to him as waves peeked into shark's teeth and the arms of the palm trees swayed. Adios, Roberto. Arriba. So these are all the poems I'm reading are in my book, Ideas of Improvisation, which, as Roberto said, is forthcoming from Thread Makes Blanket Press, should be available by early June. And there's a series of poems in the book that are titled An Idea of Improvisation, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of a riff on Ideas of Order at Key West by Wallace Stevens. So anyway, I'm gonna read a few of these. This poem is, my book is a little weird. I mean, I'm weird, so my book is weird. There's a couple of things about it that are unusual. One of them is that the text is in two colors. It's black and some of it is maroon. And so all of the words make up the base poems, and then the maroon words make up separate, smaller poems. You could think of them like erasures, except you can still see the poem underneath. And then the other thing is this poem that I'm about to share, which is technically, it's the section heading text, but it also functions as a poem. So it's in the book, but it's not in the book. And so I call it An Idea of Improvisation as the I in Kaleidoscope. 1, I is the imaginary unit. Although there is nothing real with this property, I can be used to extend the real to what is called complex. 2, then the narrative I too may bloom as iris in the mason jar of the imaginary. 3, because where is the dot of the lyrical I not pupil to the third eye of improvisation? Okay, this next poem, I'm going to read the maroon text, the little short poem, and then I'll read the poem. Most of the, I call them the maroon text, I call it Endo poems, like ENDO. And most of the Endo poems are Japanese short form poems. So they're haiku, senru, or occasionally a tanka. Crow's wings darkening the daisies. An idea of improvisation on the Liberty Bridge. Say Emily, my piano playing better half, sporting cat glasses and a floral sundress, bent to sniff a bundle of fresh daisies before dashing across the bridge. For real, just as my iPod cued Ahmad Jamal's cover of Wave. Both a wave and a tear can be falling water. A wave can be water or a flag rippling. Some flags can be red. And surely as the M-dash is named for Dickinson, before wrestling with her text, maybe I needed an ESL course. Emoji as a second language. Perhaps she fled because I couldn't tell the difference between semaphore and metaphor, or perhaps because I couldn't play a more dominant chord, or perhaps she simply longed for the longer fingers of a pianist to key the silent C of her efflorescence. Maybe you've already read about how I allegedly gave her a ring of rust on the windowsill of her heart, or how I failed to see Emily could begin with the number E, or how soon afterwards I perhaps crossed north over a cantilevered bridge in May to toss a bouquet of daisies into the Monongahela. Say certain things accumulated a few cents toiling overtime in the olfactories. Couldn't a fine pollen have also briefly finessed a sneeze? My beloved fled just as Jamal began fingering falling water. And here, I should be frank, right? Forget that. Perhaps it's not true, but let's say I misread Emily due to the wavy signs piercing my ears. Say, in place of her neck, I nosed the bottle blue scarf she left on the arm of a sofa. A steel cantilever here only holds up reality. In green truth, I didn't smell farewell until she high-heeled out the door. As she sliced up the street, late sunlight buttered her path, and I finally began to believe in God as perhaps metaphor or sugar pill. I still couldn't imagine tears as more than waves of salt water under the bridge of my glasses. Did Emily not beg us to dwell in possibility? Maybe I just imagined a Bill Evans tune spanning keys like crow's wings, darkening the day's eye until my heart gave out a refrain that rhymes with the fragrance of daisies. Okay, this next poem, when the transatlantic slave trade was taking its baby steps, the first place its foot landed was in the Cape Verde Islands, which is an archipelago of 10 islands off the west coast of Africa. And that's where my family is from. I'm a second generation Cape Verdean American. So there's 10 islands in the Cape Verde Islands. My people are from the island of Fogo. And this poem is in the voice of a man by the name of Inácio, who's from the island of Maio. And in this poem, you will hear some words in Portuguese Creole, the world's first Creole language, which is the language of the Cape Verde Islands. And I will first read there's two Indo poems in here. One of them's kind of like a tanka and one of them's kind of like a haiku. So I'll read those two first and then I'll read the poem. Smell of rain, the sea returning to write my wife in a field. Waves, the sun dips into whale song. An idea of improvisation at Porto Inglés. As a boy, I often went to the beach behind the schoolhouse to listen to the dolphins chat with the whales and watch the sails of boats swell like the hanging shirts of men. And how many whales still remain from when my papa left Maui to hunt the oil in their heads for light? The smell of whale oil tells me there's more ways to burn than there are for it to rain. Some claim the sea is a stingy lover, but maybe we just can't see her returning rain to the sky. Some might say she has harpooned all 5 of my sons, but they still write home. Passarinho que come pimenta sabe que é o que tem. Because I never learned to read words, my wife Epiphania would decipher the letters. But I can read the rocks in the field. I can tell you whether to plant Midru or Nancy. I have gone many years now without my wife, as sometimes we go years without rain, until the fields are scrimshawed with as many bones as stones. My bones converse more on the coming of rain than the man in the radio. I like the man in the radio because he doesn't insist that everything stop while he talks. This afternoon, playing Oril, Antonio, who is from Sunny Cloud, pointed out, I can't drive a car, but neither can he drive a motor. He jokes that I'm salty because I've never left Maui. He believes there are flowers beyond this island that I'll never see. There are 2 things I know for sure. Some people believe in no deity except the idea of the divine. And here on Maui, we have more rocks than flowers. You don't water rocks, but neither do they die. Sometimes I sit and listen to the waves until the sun dips into the sorrow of the sea. People always ask how I've lasted nearly 100 years. All I can say is, conversa sabia ladrón de tempo. This hat shades my face as it shaded my father's, but the light feels different. Maybe because some of it now comes through wires. Whales couldn't fit in the wires, and now the song is almost gone. On these islands, we have plenty light. If you want to impress me, make it rain. Actually, the 2 little parts in here that were in Portuguese Creole are actually proverbs. So the first one, Passarinho que come pimenta sabe que é o que tem, loosely translates as the bird that eats hot peppers knows what kind of asshole he'll have. And the second one, conversa sabia ladrón de tempo, translates as a good conversation is a thief of time. Okay, next I will share with you this poem It's titled Three Wrong Notes. And I stole the title from a jazz tune by the Stanley Clarke band featuring Hiromi. So Three Wrong Notes. Note the diameter of your invisible ink tattoo as if it hides a crossword hint like clueless dope for dopamine. But not because your inner twin sold all your rap albums for a white powder that made you feel touched by God, yet left a trail like Comet. Note how a certain name trails off with the number E as if to signify their compound interest in a continuously growing silence. Does an infinite series of silences imply addition or addiction? In one language you understand, Begadu means touching and begins with the letter P. As pie is filled with touches of fruitful irrationality and may hide a circle's private key. Note how rumors of you crossing the street to sneak rides on fire trucks are irrational, but not because you're vain or became a pyromaniac. The circumference of urinal cakes may be solved with pie or dissolved with pee. Is it irrational that you looped like an extension cord while trying to solve for the value of pee, but got beat like a bowl of egg yolks for wetting the bed? During the beating, was their mouth agape or agape? Has it not been proven that trauma only feels transcendental due to the ratio of the diameter which severs us to the circumference which can make us feel whole? Note that the sign of the asp may be key, but a volta sometimes turns as currents of a Ghanaian river, or in currents alternating like a weather vane until any cryptic tattoo could simply signify who held you down and touched you, but also told you to hold it forever because their love was like the Holy Ghost. Okay, I think I have enough time for one more. And so this poem is called The Rumi in You. And what to say? Anyway, thank you guys for having me, and thank everybody for sharing your poems earlier and for listening to mine. So this is The Rumi in You. The Rumi in you stirs to wonder. What bruise could ruin love more than the rasp of eroding rain? When I say rasp, you may be thinking of rust, another type of ruin related to rain. Did you not grasp how Jalaluddin was among the last poets whose nappy beard faced ruin in every nation, including rumination? As one harvest moon acquired a goatee of clouds, didn't you almost admit to whiskering a weak chin as if your own ruined beauty was an unwearable thing? Although you've seldom whispered it, wabi-sabi, Japanese for the rain of ruin, could be a Rumi word. When you first heard the flamenco of ruin begin to flower, did you not lament or invent a belief in wabi-sabi? Could such belief in lonely bruising begin addiction to the long open you found in wound? Or say why that eye, so central to your faith, ran quietly as a letter left out in the rain? Perhaps outside some window you misheard wind-blown petals whispering, rain and mystery, as you once heard a bruise begin to whisk a thickening rue from a flower's fat sorrow. Couldn't your beard have also masqueraded as faith or masculinity, or perhaps even a beloved which blooms through dark whiskers, until you start to learn how some poets become lovers of the sound of rain, but others simply lovers of the sound of ruin. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, that was great. That was great. Man, let me see. Hold on. I gotta press some buttons, replace spotlight. Boom. There we go. Thank you so much, Joel. That was dope.
Thank you.
Big round of applause for everybody. And you gave me something new to learn and look into. I'm always looking into these diasporic languages or this colonial languages and times, and this Portuguese Creole. I'm gonna get into that.
Okay.
So thank you so much. Thank you, Mercy, Wendy, Joel. Thank you for being here. Please know that this reading will live on our Facebook page. okay? And it will also live on our YouTube page. So feel free to share it however you like. And as soon as it goes live on YouTube, we will go ahead and share it with you, so you can share it with whoever you like, put it to your websites or whatever you want to do. I just want to, again, encourage everyone out there in Facebook land and encourage, whoever's in here in the reading with us to please follow these poets on social media, pre-order copies of their books and support them in that way. There's so much living poetry right now. There's a wonderful Instagram account called Teach Living Poets.
Oh yeah, I follow them actually.
Yeah, right. They're wonderful. And I don't think that anything could be more valuable in the moment than teaching living poets, because the work is now, it is speaking to all ages now, but in particular, when I use it in my classroom, the students gravitate toward and connect with it right away. So I cannot encourage that enough. Thank you for the folks who came in and had to go and stepped out. And thank you for everybody out on Facebook land for being with us. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. And we'll see you again tomorrow night. Okay. Thank you, y'all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mercy. Thank you for writing and reading. Thank you, Wendy, and thank you, Joel. Good night, everybody.